Long before there was an Iran, before the rise of kings, wars, and oil, there was a land called Elam. It was one of the first nations mentioned in the Bible, a place of strength, wisdom, and mystery. But hidden behind its ancient name lies one of the most powerful and controversial destinies ever written about a nation, a destiny that stretches from Genesis to Revelation. Today, the name Iran appears daily in the news. Nuclear talks, conflicts, alliances, and rivalries. But what if the true story of Iran was written thousands of years ago? What if the nation's path, its rise and fall, its role in the end times, was already recorded in the Bible long before modern borders existed? This is the story of Iran, the biblical Persia, the land chosen to both bless and challenge the people of God. In the book of Genesis, chapter 10, after the flood, we are introduced to Noah's descendants. One of them, Shem, became the father of Elam. The Elamites settled east of Mesopotamia, in what we know today as southwestern Iran. They were ancient, powerful, and skilled in war. Their city of Susa, later called Shushan, would one day become one of the most important cities in biblical history. It was in Shushan that prophets walked, kings ruled, and destinies were shaped. Centuries later, Elam merged with another rising power, Media, to form what we know as the Persian Empire. It was here that prophecy and history collided. Around 539 BC, a man named Cyrus rose to power. The Bible calls him Cyrus the Great, king of Persia. But what makes Cyrus different from every other king in history is this: he was chosen by God himself. In Isaiah 45, written more than a century before Cyrus was even born, God calls him by name. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have held, to subdue nations before him. Imagine that, a Persian king, called anointed by God, the same title used for prophets and even for Jesus himself. Cyrus was not an Israelite. He was a Persian. Yet, he was chosen to fulfill a divine mission, to set the Jewish people free from Babylonian captivity and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. The decree of Cyrus is one of the most astonishing moments in history. Ezra chapter 1 records his words: "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build him a house at Jerusalem." A Persian king, moved by God, restoring the people of Israel. From this moment, Persia became a tool in God's plan, not a nation of chance, but of purpose. But like all powerful kingdoms, Persia's heart would eventually turn. After Cyrus came kings who no longer sought the God of Israel. By the time of Queen Esther, the Persian Empire stretched from India to Ethiopia. It was in this empire that a man named Haman plotted to destroy all Jews. But through Esther's courage, the plan failed, and Persia once again became a stage for God's deliverance. From Genesis to Esther, Persia stood between divine mercy and human pride. But as centuries passed, Persia, or Iran, faded into the background, until the prophets spoke again. In Jeremiah 49, the Lord said, "I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. Yet in the latter days, I will restore the fortunes of Elam." That prophecy describes both judgment and restoration. Iran would rise and fall, but it would not vanish. It would remain, waiting for the final chapter of its story, the end times. To understand Iran's future, we turn to Ezekiel chapter 38. Here, the prophet describes a final war led by a mysterious leader called Gog, from the land of Magog. He gathers a coalition of nations to attack Israel in the last days. Among these nations, one name stands out: Persia. This is the modern-day Iran. Ezekiel's prophecy is chilling. Persia will one day join forces with nations from the north and east to wage war against Israel. But this war will not end as they expect. God himself will intervene with earthquakes, hail, fire, and confusion, destroying the armies that rise against his people. This shows that Iran, though powerful, will ultimately play a role that fulfills God's final plan, even in rebellion, still part of his prophecy. But not all of Iran's story is about war. The Bible also hints at hope. The prophet Isaiah speaks of a time after judgment when God will turn the hearts of nations toward himself. In Isaiah 19, we read of a future where Egypt, Assyria, and Israel will worship the same God together. Could this include the region of modern Iran? Many scholars believe so. That one day, even Persia will turn and honor the true God of heaven. It is no coincidence that today, despite persecution, the underground church in Iran is one of the fastest growing Christian movements in the world. In secret homes, in the shadows of cities like Tehran and Shiraz, thousands are turning to Jesus Christ, the same God who called Cyrus long ago. The Spirit of God is moving again in Persia, just as prophecy foretold. From Elam to Persia to modern Iran, the thread of destiny is unbroken. A nation once used by God to free his people will one day stand as both an enemy and a witness in the final days. But through all of it, God's sovereignty remains. History is not random. Empires rise and fall according to divine timing. What happened to Babylon, to Greece, to Rome, will also happen to every kingdom that forgets the Creator. Yet, within every nation, God always keeps a remnant, a group who will hear his voice, obey his call, and carry his message. So when you hear of Iran today, when you see the tension, the power struggles, and the headlines, remember, this is not just politics. This is prophecy unfolding. The same Persia that freed Israel, the same Elam that defied Babylon, the same land that produced both kings and prophets, still plays a part in the greatest story ever written, the story of redemption and revelation. The Bible began with a garden, and it will end with a kingdom. Between those 2 points lies the destiny of nations, including Iran. A destiny written not by men, but by the hand of God himself.